So yeah, it's really an honor to introduce my young colleague, Professor Karthikeyan Lanka. He received his PhD from the Department of Civil Engineering, Indian Institute of Sciences, Bangalore, in 2018. And he did a part of this PhD work at Princeton at Fulbright Fellow. He joined the Center of Studies in Resource Engineering, CSRE, as assistant professor in 2019, and is also an associate professor of interdisciplinary program in climate studies. After joining IIT Bombay, he spent some time at Clemson University. Karthik's eco-hydrology group at CSRE works in the area of remote sensing of soil moisture and vegetation, soil plant atmosphere interactions, hydrological modeling, and monitoring extreme dry events. I must say that he is a brilliant young researcher and a very dedicated mentor. I think most of his time is either teaching in the class or sitting with his PhD students. And there's the reason why he got this award so early in his career. And I'm sure this is just the first of many such awards that are going to come to him in the future. So Karthik, it's your show now.
Thank you very much, Professor Alok, for such a nice introduction. And first of all, I would like to thank IRCC for selecting me for this award. And so this is the topic of my presentation. So the topic is how dry is the soil. So that the question looks very trivial because any layman can look at soil and find out whether it is wet or it is dry or it's not so dry. But as we add an extensions to these questions, like how dry is the soil at a global scale, or how dry is the soil in the next season, or how dry is the soil for the plants to survive such extreme events, it becomes more complicated. It's so not so trivial. So these are some of the aspects my group is currently working on in CSRE as well as in climate studies. So the central theme of all of these questions that we are trying to address is soil moisture, which is basically talks about the amount of water that's present in the soil. And what's even more fascinating is the presence of soil moisture at this particular interface between soil, plant, and atmosphere. So we all know through intuition that it's a very intuitive subject where we know that okay, plants take the water from the soil, and when the atmosphere is very dry, some of this vapor or water that's present in the soil or in the plants will get evaporated. So we try to understand all of these dynamics at a large scale. So with this central theme of soil moisture, we try to understand how to measure this soil moisture using either remote sensing, either satellite remote sensing, or using a physics-based models. Or in terms of applications, we also look into the central theme of soil plant atmosphere interactions. So under soil plant atmosphere interactions, we try to understand how soil moisture and rainfall feedbacks work, and how do ecosystems respond to these extreme dry events like droughts or heat waves, or how do droughts would propagate from one location to other, or one type of drought to other type of droughts. And also we try to understand how these extreme events, specifically heat waves, how do they evolve in time. So I'll try to give a glimpse of what we've been doing since the past 4 years in these areas. So first of all, coming to the measurement aspect, I'm particularly interested in the passive microwave remote sensing. So we know all of us have microwave ovens in our home. The microwave sensors work on a similar principles, but at a different frequencies, of course. So here we have these satellite sensors which are dedicated to measure soil moisture content from the Earth's surface. So what we try to do is we try to develop some of the algorithms, the physics-based algorithms that will help us to convert these satellite measurements into soil moisture or some information related to vegetation. And then these models are called as ready to transfer models, or RTMs. There is it's been 40 years since the first theories have started, but still there is a lot of gaps which people are trying to still understand, address to improve their accuracy. So in that regard, one of my first student, Preeti, we have worked on trying to understand what kind of errors would would actually uh, happen in the soil moisture or vegetation estimates that we would get from satellites because of certain parameterizations or certain models that we have. And we came up with several interesting observations which would pave way for further algorithm developments, because this is a very important area of research, because there is an upcoming satellite mission called CIMR, which is Copernicus Imaging Microwave Radiometer. So several of these findings are going to be of helpful for these developments. And from the knowledge that we gain from this work, we have looked into developing our own retrieval algorithms in order to improve the accuracy of the vegetation estimates. And this is a work in progress. And another aspect of it is, which I have worked on, is to develop a multi-layer high-resolution soil moisture, because soil moisture right now from the satellites we are able to get soil moisture only at the top 5 centimeters. You can imagine top 5 centimeters would look very insignificant, but when you look at the rooting depth of any plant, they can go all the way till 1 meter depth, and that's actually the region from where they will be absorbing all the moisture from the soil. So we need to have some kind of an idea about what is the soil moisture at the deeper layers. So using machine learning and some of the large scale observations that we have, I have developed an algorithm to actually measure this or estimate the soil moisture at a very high resolution. And because of extensive data that's available over United States, I have tested this over at there. Right now, we are trying to implement this over in India. I'll talk more about it at the end of this presentation. And you can see that we are fairly successful with this method. We are able to improve the subgrid heterogeneity of the soil moisture. You can see on the right side the kind of improvement that we are able to get in terms of the spatial heterogeneity of soil moisture through this work. And then again, talking about the measurement aspect of soil moisture, this is something that we are very excited about, wherein we are now trying to develop a new physics-based models to estimate soil moisture at farm scale, that is as high as 30-meter resolution, because satellites do not have such a capability. And the existing physics-based models are not really that capable enough to get us such measurements. So this is what, again, one of my students have started working on, wherein we have to tweak the fundamental principles to make sure we get a good estimates of soil moisture, and the initial results are looking very promising. We are able to achieve the required subgrid heterogeneity. When I say subgrid heterogeneity, how well are the spatial variations on soil moisture being reproduced at a farm scale? Because this has a lot of applications when it comes to agriculture sector in terms of properly planning the water management or crop rotation strategies. And then moving on to the applications aspect, now this is one of the first works attempted by my student Ashish, wherein we are very much interested in, okay, when there is soil moisture, you can again apply your intuition. When there is radiation, the soil water evaporates. And what happens to this evaporated moisture? It just goes up and it just moves in the atmosphere. And it adds to the clouds. And then some of this moisture would again get converted into precipitation. Right. So now we have an Eulerian framework where we are able to determine how much of moisture is actually coming from a particular source region to actually determine the soil moisture and precipitation feedbacks. So this is a very nice scheme that Ashish has developed, and through which we are able to determine, okay, so in India, we have a very strong seasonality. That means we have a rainy season, winter season, etc. So whenever we have this monsoon season, So how much of this rainfall is caused because of the advection or the movement of moisture that's coming from oceans, or how much of this vapor is contributed from the land surface or some other region. So we did this kind of analysis, which was quite fascinating, and it has given, opened up so many applications that with which my next set of students are currently working on. And in the process, when we were working on the earlier work, we noticed that whenever we have the cyclones cause havoc in the eastern part of the country in India. So we have cyclones happening in the pre-monsoon and the post-monsoon seasons. So whenever these cyclones approach the landfall, we saw that some of this moisture that is originating from the land started contributing to these cyclones. So in this work, we have tried to understand what are these contributions and how much this land has a role. Let's say, for example, if land is extremely wet, how much of impact will it have on the cyclone? Or if the land is completely dry at the time of genesis of the cyclone, how much of impact will it have on the cyclone? So these kind of questions have been addressed in this work. And then moving on, India has been recognized, the Indian region is recognized one of the hotspots of land and atmosphere coupled. That means land and atmosphere are strongly coupled with extremely strong feedbacks that are coming from the land surface. So to understand more, there is a particular estimate or a parameter called critical soil moisture, which is helping us to understand the strength of coupling. So one of my students who joined last year is working on this particular aspect, on digging more into this critical soil moisture. So we have unraveled some more research questions on how this critical soil moisture is varying with respect to the soil layers or with respect to seasons. And we have got some very interesting results on this aspect. And this is one more work which we've been working on that is related to the soil-plant atmosphere interactions. As I told earlier, we have soil, plant, and the atmospheric dryness. These three are continuously interacting with each other, and especially during droughts, we wanted to understand how these plants are actually behaving. So to understand this, basically we wanted to know whether soil moisture is affecting the plants or whether the atmospheric dryness is affecting the plants. So it's not known. So through this, in this work, we have employed certain statistical causal mechanisms to understand which is the most driving factor, and we have got some interesting insights on this aspect. So we were able to do all of this using satellite remote sensing, which helped us to get us these global scale data sets. And then there's this another student, Amitesh, who is working on, as I said, the drought propagation aspect. So we know that whenever a rainfall deficit happens, okay, there will not be any rain, but what kind of impact will it have on the soil? When does a soil moisture drought occur? So this is the aspect we are talking about when it comes to the drought propagation. That's how a meteorological drought propagates into soil moisture drought. What is the strength of propagation and what is the intensity of this propagation? So this will have a very important application in terms of drought prediction at subseasonal to seasonal scales. And this is one thing that I'm really excited about. This year we have experienced, or at least northern parts of India has experienced immense heat waves. And so this made us question, so where are these heat waves coming from? So can we develop a mechanism to actually track these heat waves backwards and find out the source? So, so this is kind of questions with which one of my students who joined last year has started working on. So we are working on this particular aspect to go and track the heat waves and see whether we can develop an efficient heat wave tracking or heat wave prediction mechanisms in the coming years. So in terms of the implementation, this is my last slide. So in terms of the implementation part, we have developed something called as a Satara Living Lab with an attempt to connect to the grassroots level farmers because this is one of the mandates of IIT Bombay, that is to translate the research to the real applications. So we have had we have identified a region, a village in Satara district called Kaledhon, and we have established a soil moisture network and also an automatic weather station, and we are continuously monitoring it. And in the coming years, through CSR support or through various support, we are going to expand this soil moisture network and use in our various applications related to climate, weather, or even agriculture or hydrology. So this is the plan, and I'm fortunate to be involved in this. And I would like to thank you for giving me this opportunity. And I would like to acknowledge all of my students. And Ashish and Preeti are my first two students. They survived with me through the pandemic times, despite working remotely initially, and others who joined recent years. And also, I wanted to thank my family, because for an early career researcher, family support is an extremely important thing. And I have a young family, and I'm very grateful for having their support. Thank you so much.